So I think that Michael Olise, from a stylistic, quality, potential and age profile point of view, is pretty much the perfect right winger for United to sign this summer. Factor in that he's already Premier League proven and has a release clause of around £60 million, which I think is a fair price, and it's hard to not get excited about this deal, particularly when both Ineos and Olise himself reportedly favour this move. But there is a but. And at the moment it hasn't put me off him completely, but it's something that United need to think about, because it's arguably the same thing that they should have been thinking about with the signing of Mason Mount last year. So let me know if you guys agree with me in the comment section below. So what is the elephant in the room? Now it's not Casemiro, even though he has been moving like that in the centre of the pitch, it's actually Olise's injury record. This season he was out until November with a hamstring injury, which he picked up at the end of June. And he only played just under 3 months of football before at the start of February he picked up another hamstring injury, which kept him out until the start of April. Now I'm not a medical expert, but a fairly explosive young winger who's been out for around 6 months of the past year with a recurring hamstring injury at the very least is something that should be talked about more. I mean, people can say that the injuries that United have been unlucky, but if you look at the Mason Mount situation specifically, looking back in hindsight, it seems like the writing was on the wall. First of all, even when the deal happened, the transfer fee was absurd, £55 million for a player with 1 year left on his contract. Now this would have been a bit more understandable if Ten Hag had a nailed down important role for Mount when he eventually came into the side. However, even when Mount has been fit, not only does he not have a clear and effective role as Arteta has for Havertz, but he hasn't even been starting when fit. So basically we could have just got Mason Mount on a free this summer, but instead we've paid £55 million to essentially get him a year earlier without him even having a nailed down starting position in the side. And so even though I am a big fan of Mason Mount, I think in the right role he can be a top level player, it's the circumstances of the transfer which make it so appalling. And that's before we even come on to his injuries. But before I get into that, if you like me are excited for the upcoming Euro 2024 and want to check out all the international shirts, you can go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got the retro jerseys from Manchester United, other club sides and international sides as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout you'll get a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. Now you could say that United have been unlucky with the injuries that Mount has picked up. But if you look back at Mount's final season at Chelsea, by not only injury but just consistently falling out of the side, and so the question has to be asked, if you are signing players who are coming off the back of an injury interrupted season, with Olise's injuries being significantly more serious than Mount's during his final season at Chelsea, if that player then goes on to miss a large chunk of the following season after you signed him, is that really unlucky or is it just negligence? The reality is, a player is only as good as the minutes he's able to play on the pitch. Look at Reece James or Anthony Martial for example. Reece James could be considered one of the best right backs in the league, but he's almost never fit and not reliable at all. And so it really doesn't matter how good his ability is if he's barely able to play. And so given that apparently all of United's problems this season stem from injuries, how can the same people then suggest someone like Olise, who's missed the majority of this season? It just seems far too risky. I'm also seeing people suggesting replacing Casemiro with either Palhinha or Kimmich, which is just baffling to me, literally not learning the lessons at all. Like with Mount, I thought Casemiro was a good signing at the time, but I did have a gut feeling, which I overlooked, that this transfer just wasn't going to turn out well. And in hindsight now it seems obvious. Casemiro was 30 years old, costing £60 million and commanding a salary of £18 million a season. If he was coming into a title challenging side, I could maybe understand it, but even if he hadn't completely fallen off as he has this season, from a squad building perspective, it's hard to see how it could have worked out financially. And Palhinha and Kimmich would be the same. Both would cost between 50, maybe as much as £60 million. Kimmich maybe slightly less because he's got 1 year left on his contract, but both are going to have sizable salary packages and both will be 29 by the start of next season. The age isn't even the biggest issue really. If you are signing someone like Ross Barkley on a free, it's a short-term signing, no transfer fee and a relatively low salary package. Even if you gave him a 2-year deal, you have him as a squad rotation option for 2 years and then allow him to move on a free, there's practically no risk. However, spending £50 million on a 29-year-old central midfielder on a high salary is the sort of naive transfer that fans seem to want, and then 2 years down the line wonder how United have spent £400 million and still need to rebuild their entire squad. But of course United can't only sign players under the age of say 24, first of all because then you have a squad of players with a lot of potential who all need a few years to realise it, but without the quality to compete at the top of the Premier League in the present, exactly what's happened to Chelsea. Secondly, it would cost an absolute fortune, bringing in players who are under the age of 24, who are going to be able to come in and be as good as Barkley, Guirassy or Hendricks are right now. The free squad rotation transfers I said United should make in the video, which will be linked in the description, is just not going to be viable, particularly if you're spending big money elsewhere. If you want players under the age of 24 who are as good as those three are right now, it's legitimately going to cost you about 3 times as much, over £100 million for a ball carrying midfielder, a striker and a versatile fullback. And so with the other starting positions that United need to improve, it's a far better option to sign these slightly older players for cheaper transfer fees on lower salary packages and have them as squad options rather than splashing 30, 40, 50 million pounds on younger players with potential, which will dramatically eat up your budget for elsewhere. Now I'm still on the fence with Olise. If a medical specialist told me it was all fine and nothing to worry about, then I'd probably sign him. But I'm not sure whether I trust the current Manchester United medical specialist, certainly after the past few seasons. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you agree with me. You can check out some of my other videos as well as my Patreon podcast, which will be linked in the description, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well.